Most business owners think they're struggling to let go, but the truth is they don't trust their team's results. In this episode of Constructive Interference, I sit down with Ken Paskins, the original fractional integrator, to talk about the explosion of fake operators, why most teams are unknowingly trained not to think, and what it really takes to build a company that can scale and exit without you. If you're trying to grow, but you still feel like you're holding everything together, this conversation might change how you lead. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
Ken Baskin here on Constructive Interference. So tell us about yourself.
Let's start at birth. No, I'm teasing. Grew up in Indiana. All right. So Midwest work ethic, went to Purdue University. From a career perspective, grew up in the software ranks, latter part of my career. I managed $500 million P&Ls, teams of 450 people. Was traveling 150,000 miles a year around the globe and got burnt out with that. And about 11, 12 years ago, I dropped out, started serving as a fractional COO, helping companies. And I came across this little thing called EOS, brought it into a company. They hired me full-time at that point. Then I helped them go get some PE funding and I exited. And when I did that, I put a call into Gino Wickman and had a conversation with him and found that there was a way to help companies like that out there. And, my one claim to fame, if you will, in anything in life is I was the very first fractional integrator out there. So I literally started the movement, not a marketing person. So GCE stands for my daughters, Gabrielle, Chloe, and Emma. And if you look at what GCE does today, we're a team of 25 folks. We have practice areas. Our niche is EOS. We've served in over 10 different countries. We've got a finance, sales, recruiting, compensation, obviously HR and COO/integrator. But we work with visionaries all over the world and help them take them to the next level.
So you're the person that puts the fractional people in the companies, or are you all the fractional company?
Well, so my team are the fractional executives, right? Okay. So I was, right? But then, I started as a solo like a lot of people and then grew the business. And now I operate as the full-time visionary and CEO of the company. But yeah, so my team is a group of folks that drop in for a variety of reasons. Say, sometimes if the CEO is looking to become or get out of the integrator seat, number one. Number two, a lot of times is a use case is, hey, I've got a junior team. I don't know if they're ready or not. I'd like to get a seasoned individual to come in there and show them how it's done. We'll operate in that role. Or they'll bring us in if it's a new thing that they haven't seen before. So an M&A event, an exit, a turnaround thing. So, if you look at my team, they're very seasoned individuals. One guy on my team has done 5 exits up to $120 million. I've given you my background. But yes, so that will bring, we're the best way to put it, we're kind of hired guns to go in EOS companies and help them, get to the next level.
Now, is it just EOS companies or you go beyond EOS?
We do go beyond EOS because if you look at it, business is business, sales is sales, leadership is leadership. But I would say just because of our branding and everything and all the work that we put in marketing and SEO and me being in the EOS space for 10 plus years, majority of the people that find us are EOS. So if I break down the companies that we work with, it's probably 90% EOS. A lot of folks will find us just literally Google search or, word of mouth or EOS implementers. But yeah, the majority is EOS.
So we started EOS about 4 years ago and, we took the parts that served us and we discarded the rest because our business is not probably big enough as far as to have a full accountability chart with all the different parts. So we rearranged certain things, but one thing I have observed that since I've been in EOS is this explosion of fractional integrators. Okay. So people have so many choices of fractional, or so many people holding themselves out as fractional integrators. And a lot of them will come and network with me because they know I work with a lot of business owners and I'm an advisor to business owners. And I help them kind of move along their journey as an entrepreneur to be more investors in their company. So getting them out of their comfort zone and hiring out. So I'm a very big part of that exit strategy for them. I'm guessing my direct question is kind of what is that differentiator with your company, why would someone work with you versus all the other fractionals that are out there?
Yeah, well, I got to be honest. I think there's a lot of fakes out there, and honestly, about 60% of the companies that we work with are replacing those folks. If you look at rocket fuel, they say that I think it was either 2 or 4% of people out there can even be an integrator, and I believe that. I believe that they're either hardwired that way, and they have the pedigree in the background to do so. And I think there's a lot of people out there that just put the name on their business card and assume that they're an integrator, and or they've been an office manager and they're very good at task management, so that they assume that they're an integrator. But I tell you what, it doesn't help you read a P&L, it doesn't help you lead a team, and it doesn't help you make those really tough decisions. Just period, right? So the reason that people come to us is severalfold. One, we've been around and doing it longer than anybody else, right? Periods. Number two, our guarantee that we've never had to use. If you're not happy, we'll replace them for free. Three, you don't just get one person, you get an entire leadership team to support them. So they get a fractional integrator, but they get access to finance, sales, HR, compensation, a new AI platform that we just launched to assist business owners in building and exiting as well. So there's a variety of reasons. I mean, we're also the only company out there that has a testimonial both from Gino Wickman and Mark O'Donnell, right?
That's huge.
I agree with you. There is an explosion out there. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to a girl yesterday, and I'll leave her name out of it, obviously, but she's all excited, wants to be a fractional integrator. It's like, well, tell me about your background. Well, I've been at this law firm. How long? Well, since college. What have you been doing? Well, I grew up through the ranks, paralegal, this, and that. Okay, great. What's your value proposition? Who do you want to work with? Well, I want to work with fast growth organizations. Great. What experience do you have to rely on in doing that? And she had none, right? And I told her, I said, look, I'll be honest with you, but you wouldn't make my team. But number one, but number two, I don't know why I'd want to bring you in as a business owner, right? I said, people bring my team in because they've been doing this for 20, 25, 30 years and senior spots, exiting, building companies, M&A type of events. And they've got those experiences to rely on, right? And I think there's a lot of, junior integrators out there that quite honestly just don't have it. Right. So if you want a taskmaster, and if you're a small business, there's cheap options out there. I don't know if I'd call them an integrator, but if you want the real deal, then we're it, to be quite honest.
I think I'm observing a lot of the same thing. I'm thinking at best they should hold themselves out as a fractional executive assistant, because at the end of the day, that's more of what they're doing, is becoming an executive assistant. But I find that even with some of these fractional integrators that I work with their business owners, I'm having to kind of help them do their job. And I think it really comes down from, you danced around it, but it's the wisdom. And there's intelligence, and then there's wisdom. And wisdom, you can certainly borrow wisdom, and I think that's a smarter way to go out there and learn it. But there's still an element of experience that creates instincts. And instincts comes through failure and trial and error and through experience. And I think that's the part that I would say would differentiate someone as being a great fractional integrator versus someone that just kind of had that entrepreneurial seizure and saying, hey, I've been in management for a few years. How hard could this be? I'm going to go into business for myself and turn these skills into fractional integrator. And it's, I think it's misleading, and it's good. I think you need to be waving your banner high and proud and letting people know that, not all fractional integrators are the same, because it's that, I'll give you a great example. For first 20 years of my career, I was in BNI, Business Network and International. And our group was always like 40 to 50 members. We were the best BNI group in the Louisiana territory. I mean, people from all other territories would come and visit our meetings to see what was it like to run a 40 to 50 person BNI group. But what I found was the reputation of BNI was always so tainted because there was a lot of smaller chapters out there, and people like, oh, I tried that BNI thing, so we'd invite them as guests to our group, and they said, no, I don't really like BNI, or I tried it, didn't work, and it was just because they had that bad experience with the smaller groups, not understanding that there was an actual difference. So I don't know if that's the greatest comparison, but I think when people use a fractional integrator and they went down that route and they just didn't get the return on their investment they were looking for, they're not likely to go to you and say, or when they do run into you, oh, I've already tried that fractional integrator thing before and that EOS thing before, and it just didn't work for us. And it's like, how do you unwind that?
Well, maybe that's out there, but like I said, a large chunk of our business is replacing folks that have tried it before. I mean, we just hired a new marketing agency to redo our brand. They went out and interviewed 25 of our clients, and one client specifically said that this was the third time I've tried a fractional integrator, and GCE is the real deal, right? And we're releasing a use case upon that in a white paper as well. But look, I think it's like anything in life. You can go, hire a realtor and have a really shitty realtor who doesn't know what they're doing. You can go, get a sales guy that's sleazy and slimy, or get a professional, right? You can hire a financial advisor that might give you a 5% return when the market's doing 8 to 9, right? So it's just like anything. And I think that, there's a lot of people out there that have followed, our post and what we do and some others do out there for years and years, and they think it's easy. And they quite honestly put it on their business card, and I see them come and go. Right now, that doesn't mean that there aren't good ones out there. There clearly are, right? But I mean, I'm not joking when I say we have 3 to 4 fractional integrators reach out to us on a weekly basis wanting to join the team, and we just hold the bar very, very high. There's a place for them to go and things for them to do if they fall below that bar. But I think business owners need to be aware, right? And just because you put it on your card doesn't mean that you can do the job. And a funny thing also that I see out there is people think that they go to the integrator mastery forum and learn the EOS tools, that they're suddenly a great integrator. That's cool that you know how to develop an AC chart. That's cool that you know what a rock looks like and smart and everything else. That's cool that you might be able to IDS better. But that doesn't help you lead teams. That doesn't help you hire and fire correctly. That doesn't help you understand the value of having a 13-week rolling cash flow report in front of you to make decisions, right? And those are things that, some of these folks just don't have, to be quite honest. So I think, once again, like anything in life, there's cream of the crop, and then there's the rest. So
no, I could definitely say that about my industry, and that's kind of having to undo the negative stigma that comes from my industry can be difficult sometimes too. Now, this is really important for my viewers to kind of understand that, because I think that your role as these fractional executives, being in the company at the right time, is what the entrepreneur needs to let go of the vine. So let me ask you, what could you share with me and my audience on what do you find is one of the better tools to help create that trust? And now I define trust and trustworthiness as two different things. The trust of letting go, the confidence to be able to say, okay, I've done this for 30 years. Now all of a sudden I got to let someone else do this or run this company, and I got to go out there and think of just cool stuff to do all day as a visionary. So what is the best exercise or tool, or what would you just recommend for a visionary and an integrator to build that trust of letting go?
So you're not just talking about my team, but in general. Is
general.
that accurate?
Yeah,
okay.
good.
Well, it's funny. I think I did a podcast not too long ago, and I was asked that question similarly. And it's look, EOS is it's great, and it's not rocket science, it's rocket fuel. And everybody talks about the CEO needs to elevate and delegate and give things away and all this, but you hit the key point. It's got to be on trust. So I don't know how many times I've come into rooms and heard the team going, well, give us more and do this and do that, and they're control freaks and everything. They hold on to everything. And sometimes that's true. But what I find most of the time is is they just don't trust their team, but they don't want to fire their team. They don't want to truly go out and hire a higher level caliber of a team. But I fundamentally believe that trust comes down to results and execution, right? Without results and execution, then why would I trust you? Right? If my wife doesn't do what she says she's going to do, or my kids don't do what they say they're going to do, or my employees don't do what they say they're going to do, then why would I delegate? Why would I give you more and more responsibility? I won't. But I think few visionaries and CEOs are scared to actually say that. So they allow their team to fester and think that, oh, I'm a control freak, right? And you got to just have that hard conversation. Rufus, I've tried this. I've given you this responsibility. You've failed. You haven't executed. If you want me to do this, if you want to earn the trust, this is a two-way street. This is a marriage. You've got to execute. You got to do what you say and do it when you say you're going to do it, period, and have great results doing it. Right. So I truly think that is it.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue that I've kind of observed just with delegating is my instinct to want to rescue them, because I know how to do everything. I've experienced these things. And think about it from a standpoint, as a business owner, we want to mitigate risk, because risk usually results in us, having to pay more, and it costs us money, and it affects our profits. So we do everything we can to try to rescue them from making those mistakes. But in doing so, we're crippling them of being able to gain their own wisdom and their own experience. So it's just super uncomfortable for me to watch the catastrophe happen. Or when I know that, and you can get this as a visionary, it's like you'll be in an IDS meeting, a level 10 meeting, and y'all be IDS, and they're trying to solve. I'm like, y'all aren't there yet. I was there 10 minutes ago, and y'all still dancing around the solution. But it's so difficult. It's like the answer is so obvious, but you got to let them kind of get there on their own and own it. And it's so hard for me. So the best thing I could do is go away. I need to disengage. And I think I read this from one of Ben Hardy's books. It says, your team is never going to know how good they are until you go away. You're never going to know how good they are until you go away. If I'm not physically there to rescue them, hopefully you come back and they didn't burn the place down. But that's where it's like, okay, well, this y'all handled these things, and this came up, and everything seems to be okay. All right, not maybe the way I would have done it, but that starts to build that trust. The only other thing I've ever done is basically having the integrator come to me and tell me why they're doing what they're doing. Not necessarily that I'm going to correct them, or maybe even asking my advice. Rufus, did I ask all the right questions? And I'm like, no, it seems like you got this. Or, hey, you may want to ask this question for this potential solve. So that's kind of been my thing, is just that trust is, I said, my integrator is my daughter, by the way. So it's definitely not a trustworthiness thing. It's a me thing. Trustworthy is her. Okay. She's earned that. Trust is me saying that I'm ready to let go of certain things, that in accepting that you will never be able to do it at my level, because quite frankly, I just have more experience being me. So why would I expect you to do it the way I would do it?
Yeah, well, you hit a couple points there. So first of all, I've got this theory that's been well proven in over a decade, that entrepreneurs or CEOs in the SME market train their employees not to think, right? They lose that thinking gene, right? And what do I mean by that? When you first start, cash flow is tight and everything. They come to you on Friday and they say, which should we get? Cheese pizza or pepperoni? Pepperoni. Then the next week, it's number 2 pencils or pens, right? And then you do that, right? And you certainly make all those decisions. And then you feel like that only you can solve the problem and only you have the answers, and they allow that to take place as well. So it creates sort of a vicious cycle, right? But if we find ourselves, and oftentimes what we do day one is we change that immediately, right? So Rufus comes to me and asks me to solve a problem. Like, well, Rufus, I mean, why are you coming to me? We believe that you GW see this role and fit the core values. I mean, what would you do? Why would you do it? I mean, why do you need me to weigh in? And if you find yourself in a position where you feel that you got to rescue your employees always, then I would challenge you and to ask the question and look in the mirror, do I actually have the right employees, number one, or
Right.
number two, what am I doing wrong to put myself in that situation, right? Because something's wrong. You
Right. Right.
cannot grow a business without effectively leading and gaining results through others. Our jobs as leaders is to get work done through others. You don't see a general out in the field, with a bayonet, right, on the front lines. It's just not how it works. They call the
Well said.
plays, they execute, they call in the strike force and get things done through people, right? And there is no difference in business except we're not going to die.
Right. No, that's important. It kind of, as you were talking, it makes me think of a story, and it really is about having them fail successfully. And I love saying this is we either do things and we win or we do things and we learn, right? So, and I remember when I have a lake house, and they on Lake Pontchartrain, they have all these bulkheads, this bunch of old crushed uh, concrete blocks everywhere. And anyway, my boys at the time, they have twin boys, they were probably around maybe 9 or 10, and they're playing on the rocks just like any boy would do. There's big rocks, let's go climb. And my wife is saying, y'all get off those rocks. And I'm like, Lisa, let them play on the
Let
rocks.
them
It's like,
crack
no,
their skull.
no, they're gonna fall and get hurt. I'm like, oh, I promise you they're gonna fall.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is that they
Yeah.
don't know how to fall.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big part, is like we all fall, we all stumble, but if you don't fall correctly, that's where the real damage. Everybody falls, but you can catch yourself. You can fall and roll. I mean, it's just something that we have to learn those things too. So I think that's the other part of it, is letting them fail, knowing that maybe it is a cost, but maybe it's more of an investment.
Yeah.
And saying that, what did you learn here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to let somebody make a catastrophic mistake that takes my business down the drain per se. But yeah, I believe in what you said 100%. I mean, my middle daughter, the C in GC, Chloe. She was a super high-end triathlete, right? So she traveled around North America and everything and raced against elite athletes. And those athletes, they were being groomed to be the future Olympians. As a matter of fact, 2 people on her team were actually in the past Olympics. For people out there listening, I forget her name.
Wow.
The lady that she was a time trial, road bike, and triathlete, and she pulled out of the road bike competition and gave it to a person so she could do better in the triathlon, gave it to a person that didn't even basically qualify for that event, who won the gold the last Olympics. But anyways, I digress. She used to do, these triathlons, and she would get done with her triathlon and be very disappointed, like, pace like 10th or 12th or something like that. And we're talking super high-end girls. They would go out and find the best swimmers, best runners, and train them, with Olympians, training them to be really, really great. And I just look at her and say, well, what did we do this week or what did we not do this week that we said we were going to do? Well, I didn't get the rest that I was supposed to. I didn't hydrate as much the night before as I was supposed to. And I probably could have improved on my diet, or I didn't taper as quickly as I should. I crammed in some sessions right before the race. I was like, cool, what do we do next time? Well, I do those things, right? So, you learn from those events. Now, was I going to let her go do a race and not have her tire or her wheel completely sealed and tightened up and allow her to crash and have a concussion, which did happen? But no, I'm not going to allow that as a father or an owner. I'm going to step in, but I wasn't going to babysit her and say, you got to hydrate, you got to taper, you got to do this. Failure actually teaches us a lot. And as an owner, you got to let the employee fail, but not catastrophically.
Yeah. Yeah. I say we got to let them fall, but we don't necessarily have to push them down either.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So Ken, what's next for you in your business? Kind of where do you see this going?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're going through some pretty substantial growth right now. Last year we grew 82%. This year we're growing 40%. We're looking to expand and do some things over in Europe, which are really cool. Actually, we just launched a new GPT that has been developed for, honestly, it's our playbook and our gap analysis that we run across companies for the past 10 years. So basically, it helps helps companies actually get to the real root cause, develop 90-day plans and everything. People should actually go check it out. It's at GC Strategic Consulting / CEO Navigator GPT. But we put a lot of our lessons learned and blind spots that CEOs come across in there to help folks, if you will. But I'm excited. I'm in EO and getting really involved in that. Sit on their board here in Atlanta. But I see a lot of opportunity. We'll probably be looking at some M&A here in the next year or two as well, and just continue to grow.
Okay. So I kind of look at visionaries not only as the role, but also as the person. So when do you see yourself kind of stepping out of the role? Obviously, you'll always be a visionary, but allowing someone else to take the role as the visionary in your company.
Yeah, that's a great question that I fiddle with every single day. And I'll be honest, when I was younger, I had this belief system that I would retire at 50. And quite honestly, I was very fortunate in my career in corporate world and with options and things of that nature. But just the way I'm wired, you know, to always be engaged on and driving forward, I don't know when that is. I mean, Labor Day comes around, and by the second day, I get bored, right? So I don't think that I'm ever going to be the type that steps down and retires. I may be that 82-year-old visionary that, maybe is working 12, 15 hours a week. I don't know, but I don't know if I will. I built the business to exit, right? And I built it so it's not Ken. So I could do that, but that's a struggle for me. I'm just not fully prepared to unwind and unplug like that either. So I can't necessarily answer that. I know some people would. Now, don't get me wrong. When I do get away, I enjoy life. My wife and I just got back from a 10-day trip in Iceland, and I didn't think about business one bit. Right. But, that was a vacation. But as soon as I get back here and I'm not on vacation, I've got to keep my mind going.
No, I'm exactly the same way. I mean, it's more of a mindset of what am I retiring to? It's less of a what am I retiring from? Because no, I mean, if you enjoy what you're doing, it still challenges you and stimulates you. You look forward to doing it. Then why would you ever stop? I think exit strategy is getting your company ready for sale without having to sell it. So it's about finding the next thing, that next passion. And even with me, I've kind of asked myself those questions, and I started a little side business on the weekend with some friends that is more in construction and design, completely opposite direction of the financial services. But I'm still slowly becoming a YouTube influencer, which is really funny for me to say this at my age.
Wow, that's cool.
I guess they would consider us a micro influencer at this point, but we'll see. But that's kind of my glide path that says, okay, because we like going to these tool conferences and these home shows, and we'll go all over the country, and we'll bring our little GoPros and we'll interview and discover really cool things, and we'll go back and we'll implement it in our homes. And that's, like I said, it's just it's still work, and it's work. It's fun. But we said, well, I know how to build businesses, so let's just not do it fun. Let's make enough money to where it covers our costs, to where we can travel when we want, whenever we want. And if it blows up, so be it. It blows up, whatever. But I think they're very therapeutic to have something, because I don't. It's very difficult for me to do clarity breaks. As I know you probably tell people to do clarity breaks, and like, even when I'm doing clarity breaks, I'm thinking about business. I'll listen to an audiobook thinking about business, and it's just kind of a subconscious reel going in the back of my head. So to be able to transcend that into other things is kind of fun too. And also I'm learning a lot about YouTube algorithms and marketing and stuff that I never had to do before. And I'm like, oh, what are these, what's Instagram? How do you spell X? I don't even know. So all these different things, it's just a whole new world. I'm like, wow. So I don't know, finding that passion and to move on, that's the only way I really see myself disengaging from this business. Because, a lot of times coming here is just like comfort food. It's just, okay, I have purpose here. People need me here. I don't want to kind of give up that part of my life until I find something else that gives me more purpose. So anyway,
Yeah. I mean, we got a friend we play pickleball with, and he retired at 55. And I asked him, I was like, how did you do that? And it's like, don't you get bored? And he's like, well, you got to have purpose, passion, and enough money to do it. And I'll be honest, my passion is actually, helping entrepreneurs and CEOs see their blind spots and break through, right? And the reason that I truly got into what I did is my wife noticed that with each promotion and each thing I did, I was one of the youngest vice presidents at Oracle when I was there in North America, and at each accomplishment I hit, I got bored the next week, right? And I was more about fixing, cleaning stuff up and, taking things to the next level versus just operating smoothly and everything. So I really enjoy stepping in, and what feeds my team is stepping into businesses that, they have some rough
Right.
spots, and we know how to fix and polish those rough spots and help them
Yeah.
persevere. So it's fun. It
So
feeds me.
I've kind of taken on this kind of self mantra of never satisfied, always grateful. And I think that recognizing that that's just the way you and I are wired, Ken, is that there's never going to be enough that satisfies or a certain amount of success. We're going to climb that mountain and get to the top and realize, first of all, there never really was a mountain there. But then we'll see, because we have a much better view at the top of that mountain, to see all these other mountains that we have yet to climb. And it's just that
Yep.
void that I've learned to live with it. And actually what gave me a lot of peace with that was reading Doug Brackman's book, Driven, have you ever read that book?
What is it called?
Driven.
I've actually never even heard of it. I'm surprised. No.
Okay. So he's been on a couple of, him and Gino did some podcasts together, or some interviews, and some trainings. But I highly recommend it, because that is the science behind what's going on in your brain.
Okay.
We were fortunate enough to have him at one of our visionary summits. It was actually the second one I've ever went to. And I'm sitting next to him the whole time, not realizing he was one of the speakers. And I'm just having these great conversations. But when he got up there and started actually giving me the explanation of why we are the way we are, it almost gave me kind of a sense of relief of
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with me, which I knew there wasn't anything wrong with me, but there was still that thing. It's like, how ungrateful of an asshole am I that I do all these things that people would kill for, and it's just still not good enough. And I started forgiving myself, and I'm like, because they're not wired the way you are. They can have
Yeah.
so much less and be so much more content, and that's okay. That's them. But the world
Yeah.
needs people like us that are never satisfied. And that's why I say the tragedy is not necessarily finding satisfaction in what you have achieved. The tragedy is not finding gratitude along the way. And I think it's the journey and the experiences of who you've done these things with and what you've learned along the way. Okay, so you reached the top. Big deal. Let's go find another top. And that once you recognize that, you start to let go a little bit of shame.
Yeah.
And shame's kind of a weird thing. It's like, I'm carrying this with me. Well, why can't it be like my friend over here that seems to always be very much content? I just get
Right.
restless and bored. And you're right. In these long weekends, I'm like, I'm just like, if I sit around and watch TV all day, I'm like, what a wasted day. I could have got so much more done. And it just
Yeah.
doesn't work right. So anyway, I recommend it. And I think it helps understand the actual. So you'll read this part, but it's the D2 D4 gene. And essentially what it is that most people, and I'll do my best to describe this, and we'll start wrapping it up, is the D2 D4 gene is dopamine 2, dopamine 4. One's the FOMO gene and one's the wandering gene. So it basically says that we have very low hits of it, whereas other people have very high hits of it that are long lasting. Ours are very low and short lived, or they're like high and short lived. So that's why we become these dopamine junkies of trying to go find more success, because we're trying to go get what everybody else wants. We all want to feel good, but other people can just be in it longer than our sense of restlessness. So isn't that neat? So
Cool.
anyway.
I'll check that out. I'll check that out for sure.
Well, Ken, this is fun, and like I said, that's the whole idea, is to really connect with other visionaries and to amplify. And I like some of the conversations that came out of this. I look forward to having future conversations with you. And
Yeah, that'd
I
be great.
enjoyed being on your wife's podcast. That was fun.
Awesome.
It's always easier when someone says, "Tell me about yourself." I'm like, "All right, where do I start? This is great. I can talk for hours on me."
Yeah.
But anyway, but it's been good to know you. So
Likewise, I appreciate it, Rufus. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
you bet.
So,
Take care.
all right.
Thanks for tuning in to Constructive Interference. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow visionary. Keep dreaming big, and remember, the only limits are the ones you set for yourself. Until next time, stay sharp.